Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So a few days ago I released my video on 10 things I would absolutely love to see in future Gran Turismo 7 updates. And I went ahead and told you guys, if you want, feel free to leave your own suggestions in the comments below and I'll compile them into its separate video. And that's exactly what we're going to do today, as I'm going to bring the top 10 rated from the comment section to bring them into its own separate video. So a huge thank you to everyone that left suggestions, and feel free to just leave some more down in the comments below of this one, as I'll go ahead and make a second one if there's enough worthy comments. Anyway, let's get things started. So point number one is going to be an FOV change. This was written by Juice, so a massive thank you for your comment. He basically goes on to say that some vehicles you just seem too close and some you do seem too far away. And I fully agree. When it comes to any serious racer in 2024, the ability to change your FOV, especially when it comes to riding inside the vehicle, is absolutely a must. Now when it comes to this actual feature, there's kind of a little bit of a workaround when it comes to PSVR, where you can sort of dip your head, hold the select button, and it will kind of put you in that sort of different FOV if you're kind of too close, or you might be too far away. But in terms of the actual flat screen game, there is no way to actually change your FOV properly. So an FOV slider I massively agree with. Comment number two was written by Timmy. He basically goes on to say that he wants more variety in the grind races and championships, and I think this one is shared by a lot of the original Gran Turismo players, where there's just not enough in terms of those single player events to actually go ahead and grind money. It gets very, very tedious very, very quickly. In fact, the only way I've found to actually refresh the grind in Gran Turismo 7 is to go ahead and build as many different cars as possible for the kind of four main grinding events that we've got. Of course, there is other ways, some of the custom race glitches and stuff like that, but again, they can be a massive pain. And if you just want to kind of jump in without having to set everything up or really jank your game out, or you want a competitive grind to earn some credits, then you're very, very limited in GT7. This has been a massive problem ever since they first released those proper grinding events after a couple of months, and it is still a problem now that honestly there's just not enough of them and not enough variety. So the next comment is from Ian Sutton, who goes ahead and asks for Silverstone. Now I can agree on this. I frequent Silverstone quite a lot, along with a lot of other of the United Kingdom racetracks, and whilst I absolutely do prefer the likes of Donington Park and Cadwell, I just feel like they are much cooler, more unique tracks. I do appreciate the fact that Silverstone is of course the heart of motorsport in the United Kingdom and absolutely is a must. Of course we already have Brands Hatch in game, but that's your lot when it comes to the UK's racetracks. And of course, being from the United Kingdom, I would absolutely love to see more of these tracks that I frequently visit year in, year out, to watch many, many different types and forms of motorsport. Of course, the most popular pick would end up being Silverstone. As mentioned, like I said, it is the biggest track in the UK when it comes to events and stuff like that. But for me personally, like I said, I'm more of a Donington Park person. I do think the layout's just much cooler. I think it's very unique and a very, very good track for racing. But definitely when it comes to UK tracks, with Silverstone being the most popular, this will probably be the most obvious choice. Next comment is by Deuce, and he asked to be able to start over. Whilst I do kind of agree on this one, of course back in the day when we had memory cards and such like that, the ability to wipe your save and go through career mode again was definitely something that could really refresh the game from playthrough to playthrough. Of course it's a little bit different with Gran Turismo 7, it is server based, so it is of course always online, and the only time that will end of course is when they decide to move on to the next Gran Turismo title, a little bit like with GT Sport, and end the service, so that is just purely single player only. So of course until then this is probably not going to be a thing, and I don't think it ever will be a thing anyway. But I do agree that it was just something quite, I guess, unique about starting an entire another playthrough. But again, with it all being server based and of course the huge grind to get everything in this game, this may not be the most popular, but definitely when it comes to, accounting for the older titles and going through those playthroughs, I do agree on this one. So this next comment was by a user called Cruz, who asks for random car prizes. Now you might be wondering what this means. Basically a pool of random car prizes for actually completing an event. Now the key issue with GT7 and a lot of its single player replayability is the fact that there is nothing really to earn once you've ticked off a bunch of these events. So opening them up to maybe a pool of, 4 different cars that you can go ahead and win would just allow players to constantly replay these to go ahead and get those different prize vehicles. I fully agree with this, and as someone that has got a lot of nostalgia for the older Gran Turismo games and actually being able to be rewarded and grind credits by selling vehicles that we've earned or might not want or duplicates, this for me would add so much replayability to Gran Turismo 7. Of course, as someone that kind of mains the single player of this game and gets more enjoyment from that, I feel like this would be a huge boost to that portion of the game. So the next comment is by user 1911, who mentions the ghosts in game or the ghost transparency. This is definitely one that I've seen pop up more and more over the years, and it does seem to be a common issue for a lot of players. Of course, one of the best ways to get faster in GT7 is to follow around the ghosts, whether you're doing license tests or of course time trials and such. Following around a ghost can be incredibly helpful to learn the likes of the racing lines or see where you're going faster, see where you're going slower. But one of the key issues is actually when you catch up to that ghost. It can really get in the way of your screen and cause you to more than likely have a huge off than actually assist you. So I do agree with changing the transparency of the ghosts in game. So the next comment is by a user called Mansell, who mentions Sophi AI in custom races. And whilst this one is probably a long way off at this point, I do fully agree that it would be incredible for the custom race section of Gran Turismo 7. Whilst it is definitely one of the most customizable portions of the game, it does have a major issue when it comes to AI rubber banding, whether they're too slow or incredibly quick to try and catch you up, to the point where they'll be setting lap times miles outside of anything other than a Tomahawk X. So I do agree that having the adaptive AI of Sophi in custom races would be incredible, but unfortunately I don't think this one will be really that possible. I believe it takes hundreds of thousands of laps for Sophi AI just to kind of, figure out one single track. So I don't think this will be something that we'll see anytime soon, or maybe even in GT7's life cycle, but I do agree this would be incredible. The next comment is by a user called Nathan. I was waiting for this one to show up, and honestly it shows up every single time I do one of these videos, and that is for the invites to be gone. Again, it's just part of the frustrating RNG when it comes to GT7, whether that's the roulette wheel or things like this with the invites where you basically rely on getting that invite. And honestly, it's a portion of the game that just makes no sense at this time in the game's life cycle. At the end of the day, when things like the Vulcan have to be bought by an invite but the Valkyrie doesn't, you know that this system pretty much needs to just be gone. And yes, they have turned it off before. I believe the first month after launch they actually opened up all of the invites for players to be able to buy their cars as a sorry for the disastrous launch of GT7. Since then though, we have never ever seen it opened up. So the next comment is by Paul Abbott, who mentions the car customization in game being kind of weak, and I do agree to a sense that there's just really not much here for a lot of the road cars. Some of course massively stand out. You can basically turn a car into an entirely different model at times, but others are incredibly weak and you really wouldn't expect it from some of them. So I do agree that more customization options are a must, whether that's interior, exterior. One of the biggest things that annoys me is weight reduction. When you chuck all of the weight out of a road car and still inside that vehicle is all of the default interior. I get it takes a long time to model these cars, but it definitely would add to the entire game and just the presentation of it. So I do agree that car customization could be better, but since we've not really seen too much of that in GT's I guess life cycle entirely, I do agree that a lot of it needs to be kind of built upon over time rather than just straight in there. But yes, car customization for me is an absolute must. And the final point of this video is by a user called Pirate, who mentions the weather in game and the fact that it should be at every single track and location possible. And I fully agree with this. I get it's a rather complex weather system in Gran Turismo 7, but surely there's a way to implement it at every single track, and every single track should also have a day-night cycle. I just feel like this is a must. A lot of games do this where they can have the likes of snow, rain, lightning, of course dry conditions, day, night, and honestly GT7 just seems incredibly limited on these set times of days and of course these set weathers that we can only run at some specific tracks. This definitely needs opening up, and it should be a must for any future Gran Turismo title. And there we go, that is going to be 10 things that you guys want to see in future Gran Turismo 7 updates. A massive thank you for all of the comments. Don't forget, continue dropping them down below, and if there's enough of them to put into a worthy, lengthy enough video, then I will go ahead and do that. A massive thank you to every single person that's been supporting this channel lately. I know in October I've been taking it a little bit slower than usual, but I do have some things planned for the likes of November, December and January. So be sure to join the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, peace.